Linda Matthews stood frozen in the doorway of her own nursery, the sound of her dropped keys still echoing in the hallway behind her. The luggage at her feet, packed for what was supposed to be a week-long business trip to Chicago, now seemed irrelevant. She had returned early, driving through the night after her conference was unexpectedly cancelled. She'd been excited to surprise Michael and spend some extra time with their 4-month-old daughter, Emma. Instead, she was the one surprised, blindsided by the scene before her. A woman she had never seen before, sitting in the rocking chair Linda's father had made, cradling Emma against her bare breast. The stranger looked up, her expression shifting rapidly from contentment to shock. She didn't scream, she didn't jump. She simply stared back at Linda with wide eyes, caught in an act so intimate and maternal that Linda's brain struggled to process what she was seeing. "Who the hell are you?" Linda's voice was barely above a whisper, her throat constricting with each syllable. The woman, young, maybe mid-20s, with copper hair pulled back in a messy bun, quickly covered herself and adjusted Emma in her arms. "I'm Vanessa," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Michael's friend. He asked me to watch Emma while he ran to the store." Linda took a step forward, her body moving automatically while her mind raced. "And that requires you to breastfeed my daughter?" The words tasted bitter in her mouth, a reality she couldn't bear to acknowledge. Vanessa began, but the sound of the front door opening downstairs interrupted her. "Ness? They were out of the organic formula, but I got the—" Michael's voice trailed off as he appeared in the doorway behind Linda, grocery bag in hand, his face drained of color. "Linda, what are you doing home?" Linda turned to face her husband of 6 years, Michael Matthews, 34, with his perpetually tousled dark hair and the slight stubble he maintained, because she once told him it looked good. The man who had held her hand through 12 hours of labor. The man who had wept when Emma was placed in his arms for the first time. "The conference was cancelled," Linda said, her voice distant even to her own ears. "Surprise." Michael's eyes darted between Linda and Vanessa, panic evident in every line of his body. "Linda, I can explain—" "Explain what?" Linda interrupted, a cold analytical part of her brain taking over. "Explain why there's a stranger breastfeeding our daughter in our home? Explain why you clearly know her well enough to use a nickname? Explain why you're buying formula when we have a freezer full of my pumped milk?" She turned back to Vanessa, who was now standing, holding Emma protectively against her shoulder. Linda's maternal instinct surged with primal force. "Give me my daughter." Now, Vanessa looked to Michael, her uncertainty clear. This small hesitation, this silent request for Michael's permission regarding her own child, sent a wave of fury through Linda so intense she felt lightheaded. "Give her to me," Linda repeated, extending her arms. Vanessa carefully transferred Emma, who was now fussing, sensing the tension in the room. The moment Linda felt her daughter's weight in her arms, something inside her stabilized. She pressed her lips to Emma's forehead, inhaling her baby scent, grounding herself in this one certainty. "Linda," Michael started again, taking a step toward her. "Don't," Linda said sharply. "Just don't come near us right now. Please, let me explain," he pleaded, his voice breaking. "This isn't what it looks like." Linda almost laughed. "Really? Because it looks like you've been having an affair and somehow got your mistress to breastfeed our baby." "What am I missing, Michael?" Vanessa spoke up, her voice small. "I'm not just his mistress." Linda's eyes snapped to her. "Excuse me? Michael and I—" Vanessa looked at him again, and something passed between them that made Linda's stomach twist. "We have a daughter together, Sophia. She's 6 months old." The world tilted under Linda's feet. "What?" Michael's face crumpled. "I was going to tell you. I swear I was trying to find the right time." "The right time?" Linda echoed, incredulous. "When would that be, Michael? Before or after having this woman nurse our child? Before or after—" She stopped, a horrible thought striking her. "How long has this been going on? Was this happening before I got pregnant?" Michael's silence was answer enough. "So while we were trying for a baby for 3 years, going through fertility treatments, you were—" Linda couldn't finish the sentence. She looked down at Emma, whose blue eyes, Michael's eyes, gazed back at her, unaware of how her world was crumbling. "Please," Michael said, taking another step closer. "Let's just talk about this. Vanessa can go and we can—" "No," Linda said firmly. "No, I need to understand exactly what's been happening here." She turned to Vanessa. "You have a 6-month-old with my husband, and you've been what? Sharing breast milk duties with me?" Vanessa at least had the decency to look ashamed. "It wasn't like that at first. But Michael was worried about Emma not getting enough when you went back to work, and I had an oversupply. So he suggested you breastfeed our daughter. Linda felt sick. It was more complicated than that, Michael interjected. Linda, please, Emma needs stability. Let's not do anything rash. Something in his tone made Linda's skin crawl. There was calculation there, not just panic. She'd heard that tone before, when he was trying to manage a situation, manipulate an outcome. I need to think, Linda said, stepping back. I need to get out of here. You can't take Emma, Michael said quickly. You're upset. You shouldn't be driving with her. I'm perfectly calm, Linda replied, surprised to find it was true. A cold clarity had descended over her. And she's my daughter. She's our daughter, Michael corrected, his voice hardening. And I'm not letting you leave with her when you're like this. Vanessa moved to stand beside Michael, their united front against her, so practiced, it told Linda everything she needed to know about how long this had been going on. Linda looked between them. These two people who had conspired behind her back, who had violated her trust in the most fundamental way. She realized with sudden clarity that she didn't know her husband at all, and worse, she had no idea what he was capable of. Fine, she said, making a split-second decision. You're right, I shouldn't leave like this. I need some air. I'll just take a walk to clear my head. Michael looked relieved, reaching for Emma. Linda hesitated, then reluctantly handed her daughter over. I'll be back in 30 minutes. We'll talk then. She turned and walked downstairs, grabbing only her purse before heading out the front door. Once outside, she walked briskly to her car, got in, and pulled out her phone. With shaking hands, she dialed her best friend Kate's number. Kate, she said when her friend answered, her voice finally breaking, I need your help. I need it right now. As she drove away from the house, Linda glanced in her rearview mirror. Michael stood at the window, Emma in his arms, watching her go. Beside him, Vanessa placed a hand on his shoulder in a gesture so intimate it made Linda's chest ache. Linda gripped the steering wheel tighter. She wasn't collapsing. She wasn't running away. She was strategizing. Because whatever game Michael was playing, she had just realized the stakes were far higher than she had imagined, and she would not lose her daughter. 2 hours later, Linda sat in Kate's living room, staring at her phone as it buzzed with Michael's 11th call in the past hour. You need to answer eventually, Kate said gently, placing a cup of tea in front of her friend. At least to let him know you're safe. Linda looked up at Kate, her oldest friend since college, the woman who had been her maid of honor and Emma's godmother. I don't even know what to say to him. How do you start a conversation about this? Kate sat down beside her, her practical nature one of the reasons Linda had come straight here. Start by finding out exactly what's been going on. How long, how deep, what their arrangement is. Information is power, Linda. Linda nodded, taking a deep breath before answering the phone. Hello, Michael. Linda, thank God. His voice was ragged with what sounded like genuine worry. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm at Kate's, she answered. And no, I'm not okay. How could I possibly be okay? There was a pause. I know. I'm so sorry. Please come home so we can talk about this. Emma needs you. The mention of her daughter sent a fresh wave of pain through her. Is she with you now? Yes, Michael replied. She's napping. Vanessa left. How considerate of her, Linda said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. Tell me the truth, Michael. All of it. Right now. She heard him sigh. It's complicated, Linda. Then uncomplicate it, she snapped. Vanessa and I, it started about 4 years ago. Before we began the fertility treatments, it was supposed to be just a one-time thing, but he trailed off. But you kept seeing her, Linda finished for him. While I was going through hormone treatments, while I was having ultrasounds and blood draws every other day, while I was crying myself to sleep because I thought there was something wrong with me, you were with her. I'm not proud of it, Michael said quietly. When you finally got pregnant with Emma, I tried to end it, I really did. But then Vanessa told me she was pregnant too. I couldn't just abandon her or my child. Linda closed her eyes, feeling sick. So what was your plan, Michael? Maintain 2 separate families? Or was I eventually going to find out when you decided it was the right time? I don't know, he admitted. I was just trying to do right by everyone. When Vanessa offered to help with Emma while you were at work, it seemed like a solution. She works from home, she was already nursing Sophia. It made sense at the time. It made sense, Linda repeated, dumbfounded. Having your mistress nurse our child made sense. Linda, please come home, we can work through this. For Emma's sake, we need to figure this out rationally. There it was again, that slightly manipulative tone, using their daughter as leverage. But something else he'd said caught Linda's attention. Vanessa helps with Emma while I'm at work. How often? I thought Emma was with your mother on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and at daycare the other days. There was a telling pause. My mum hasn't been feeling well lately. Vanessa's been filling in. Linda's mind raced. How long has this been going on, Michael? The truth. Since you went back to work 3 weeks ago, he answered too quickly. Linda thought back. Michael's mother had called her just last weekend, sounding perfectly healthy, asking about Emma. Something wasn't adding up. I need time to think, she said finally. I'll come by tomorrow to see Emma and get some of my things. I'm staying with Kate for now. Linda, no. Michael's voice took on an edge of panic. We need to talk about this as a family. You can't just take off. I'm not taking off, Linda said firmly. I'm giving myself space to process the fact that my husband has been living a double life. I'll see you tomorrow. She hung up before he could respond, then looked at Kate, who had been listening intently. He's lying, Linda said simply. Kate nodded. About which part? I don't know yet, but something's not right. Linda ran a hand through her hair. His mother called me last weekend asking about Emma. She didn't sound sick at all, and she specifically mentioned how much she was enjoying her Tuesdays and Thursdays with the baby. Kate's expression grew serious. So Vanessa's been with Emma more than he's admitting. Exactly. Linda stood up, pacing. And why would he lie about that, unless there's something worse he's hiding? Kate watched her friend with concern. What are you thinking? Linda stopped, turning to face Kate with determination in her eyes. I'm thinking I need to find out exactly who Vanessa is and what she and Michael are really up to, because this isn't just about an affair anymore. Something about this feels dangerous. Dangerous how? Kate asked, her voice dropping. Linda shook her head, trying to articulate the dread that had been building since she walked into that nursery. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. And I'm going to make sure Emma is safe no matter what. As the sun began to set outside Kate's apartment, Linda stared out the window, her mind whirling with suspicions and half-formed theories. The image of Vanessa cradling Emma, that look between her and Michael. There was something calculated there, something planned. This wasn't just a messy affair, this was something else entirely, and Linda was going to uncover every last secret, even if it destroyed the life she thought she had. The next morning, Linda sat in her car outside the colonial-style house she and Michael had purchased 3 years ago in a quiet suburb of Boston. Their forever home, they had called it, with its white picket fence and maple trees that turned brilliant shades of red in the fall. Now it looked like a facade, a movie set constructed to hide what was really happening inside. Linda checked her appearance in the rearview mirror. She had deliberately styled her blonde hair the way Michael liked it, applied just enough makeup to look put together, and chosen a sweater he had once complimented. The performance was calculated. She needed Michael to believe she was still processing, still vulnerable, not yet on the offensive. Her phone buzzed with a text from Kate. Remember the plan. Stay calm, get what you need, and leave. I'm on standby. Linda took a deep breath and exited the car. As she approached the front door, she hesitated, suddenly uncertain whether to knock or use her key. This absurd moment of doubt, whether she had the right to enter her own home, fueled her resolve. She used her key. The house was quiet when she entered, the morning sun streaming through the windows. She could hear Emma's babbling coming from the kitchen, the sound sending a jolt of longing through her chest. "Michael!" she called out, hanging her coat on the rack by the door. "In the kitchen," he responded. Linda steeled herself and walked through the living room, noting that nothing seemed out of place. No evidence of Vanessa or another child. Either Michael had been careful to remove all traces, or Vanessa didn't actually live here. One small mystery solved. Michael was feeding Emma in her high chair, spooning pureed sweet potatoes into her eager mouth. He looked up when Linda entered, his expression a careful mix of remorse and hope. "You came," he said simply. "I told you I would." Linda went straight to Emma, bending down to kiss her daughter's head. "Hi, sweet girl, Mummy missed you so much." Emma grinned, orange mush covering her chin, and reached for Linda with sticky hands. Linda scooped her up, not caring about the stains on her sweater, and held her close, breathing in her baby shampoo scent. "She missed you too," Michael said, setting down the spoon. "Linda, about yesterday." "Not in front of Emma," Linda interrupted, her tone gentle but firm. "Let me enjoy her for a bit first." Michael nodded, watching as Linda sat down with Emma on her lap, taking over the feeding. They fell into a strained silence, broken only by Emma's happy noises as she ate. "I need to get some clothes and things for Emma," Linda said eventually. "I'll be staying at Kate's for a while." Michael's jaw tightened. "You're taking her?" "Yes," Linda replied, meeting his gaze steadily. She needs her mother. She needs both her parents, Michael countered. Linda, we can work through this. People make mistakes, marriages survive affairs all the time. Linda almost laughed at the gross understatement. This isn't just an affair, Michael. You have another child. You've been having this woman breastfeed our daughter behind my back. The level of deception here is... She trailed off, mindful of keeping her tone calm for Emma's sake. Michael ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made Linda's heart ache despite everything. I know it sounds bad when you put it like that, but it wasn't malicious. I was trying to take care of everyone. By lying to everyone, Linda pointed out. Not to Vanessa, Michael said, then immediately looked like he regretted it. Linda raised an eyebrow. No, just to your wife, that makes it better. She finished feeding Emma, then cleaned her face with a wet cloth. I'm going to pack some things. Can you watch her for a few minutes? Michael nodded, taking Emma back. Before he could say anything else, Linda headed upstairs. In the bedroom, she quickly gathered clothes for herself and Emma, focusing on essentials. As she moved around the room, she discreetly checked Michael's nightstand, his dresser drawers, looking for anything that might give her more information about his relationship with Vanessa. In the back of his sock drawer, she found a small velvet box. Inside was a silver locket with a tiny photograph of a baby girl, not Emma. On the back was engraved, "Sophia, my heart." Linda's hands trembled as she replaced it exactly as she'd found it. In the home office, she checked the filing cabinet where they kept important documents. Michael's life insurance policy had been updated 6 months ago, around the time Sophia would have been born. Linda was still the primary beneficiary, but a significant portion now went to a trust with Vanessa, listed as the trustee. Most telling of all, in a folder labeled Property Taxes, Linda found a lease agreement for an apartment in Cambridge, about 20 minutes away. The tenant's name was Vanessa Reeves. Linda quickly used her phone to take photos of these documents before replacing them carefully. She then moved to the nursery, packing Emma's favorite toys and blankets, trying to ignore the memory of what she had witnessed in this room just yesterday. As she zipped up the diaper bag, her eyes fell on the baby monitor on the dresser. It was a high-end model that connected to their phones, allowing them to check on Emma from anywhere. On impulse, Linda took it, along with the base unit. When she returned downstairs, Michael was sitting on the living room floor with Emma, helping her stack colorful blocks. "I've got everything we need for now," Linda said, setting down the bags. Michael looked up, his expression hardening when he saw the amount she had packed. "Linda, this is ridiculous. You can't just take her and leave. We need to talk about this, make arrangements." "We will," Linda assured him, keeping her voice level. "But right now I need space and Emma stays with me." "I have rights too," Michael said, standing up. "She's my daughter." "I'm not denying that," Linda replied. "You can see her whenever you want. But my home is with Kate for now." Michael's face flushed with frustration. "And what am I supposed to tell people? My mother, our friends, that you left me?" Linda shrugged. "Tell them whatever you want. The truth might be a good start." She bent down to pick up Emma, who came to her willingly. As she settled her daughter on her hip, Linda looked directly at Michael. "I'll bring her by on Thursday for a visit. You can have her for the afternoon." "That's not enough," Michael protested. "It's a start," Linda said firmly. "We'll figure out a more permanent arrangement once I've had time to process everything." Michael looked like he wanted to argue further, but instead sighed heavily. "Fine, Thursday afternoon. But I want to talk about this more then. About us, about our future." Linda nodded non-committally, gathering the bags with her free hand. "Can you help me take these to the car?" Michael grudgingly picked up the larger suitcase and the diaper bag, following Linda outside. As they loaded the car, Linda noticed him scanning the street, a subtle but unmistakable gesture that raised her suspicions further. "Expecting someone?" she asked casually. Michael's eyes snapped back to her. "No, just neighbors. You know how they talk." Linda smiled thinly, securing Emma in her car seat. "Yes, I know exactly how they talk." She closed the back door and turned to face Michael. "I'll see you Thursday." He reached out, catching her arm. "Linda, please, don't do this. Don't break up our family." The irony of his statement was so profound that Linda momentarily lost her composure. "You broke this family, Michael, not me." She gently removed his hand and got into the driver's seat. As she pulled away, she watched Michael in the rearview mirror, standing in the driveway looking lost. The image might have moved her just days ago. Now it only strengthened her resolve. "An apartment in Cambridge," Kate repeated, looking at the photos Linda had taken. They were sitting at Kate's dining room table, while Emma napped in the portable crib they had set up in the guest room. "So he's been supporting her financially?" Linda nodded, scrolling through the photos on her phone. "The lease is in her name, but it's paid from a bank account I've never seen before. And look at this." She showed Kate a photo of the life insurance policy. He updated his policy 6 months ago, right around when Sophia would have been born. Kate studied the document, her brow furrowing. "Wait, this says the trust gets paid if both you and Michael die. That's odd." Linda had noticed the same thing. "Exactly. If Michael dies, I get most of the money as his wife. But if we both die, this trust gets a significant amount, with Vanessa as the trustee." "For Sophia," Kate said, understanding dawning on her face. "But why would he set it up that way? Why not just add Vanessa as a direct beneficiary if he dies?" Linda leaned back in her chair, the implications making her stomach churn. "Because he doesn't want anyone to know about her, at least not yet." Kate shook her head, visibly disturbed. "Linda, this is starting to sound suspicious." Linda finished for her. "I know, and there's more." She pulled out the baby monitor she had taken from the nursery. "I need to check something." Linda opened the app on her phone that connected to the monitor. It had a feature that allowed parents to review footage from the past 48 hours, a feature she and Michael had rarely used, but that might now prove invaluable. She scrolled back to yesterday morning before she had arrived home. The footage showed the nursery empty until around 9 a.m., when Michael entered carrying Emma, followed by Vanessa. "That's her," Linda said, turning the screen so Kate could see. They watched as Michael handed Emma to Vanessa, who sat in the rocking chair. The audio picked up their conversation clearly. "Are you sure about this?" Vanessa was asking. "What if she finds out?" Michael's response sent a chill through Linda. "She won't. And even if she did, what's she going to do? She can't prove anything. Besides, we're almost there." "Almost where?" Kate whispered, but Linda shushed her, focusing intently on the screen. Vanessa adjusted Emma in her arms. "I don't like deceiving her like this. She seems nice from what you've told me." Michael laughed, a sound so cold and unfamiliar that Linda barely recognized it as coming from her husband. "Nice and naive. The perfect combination. Trust me, it's better this way, cleaner." Vanessa looked down at Emma. "And you're sure she won't fight for custody?" "Not when I'm finished," Michael said confidently. "Now I've got to get to the store before she gets back from her trip." Sophia's formula is in the car. The video continued, showing Vanessa beginning to breastfeed Emma. Linda closed the app, her hands shaking. "What the hell was that?" Kate demanded, her face pale. "What are they planning, Linda?" Linda set the phone down carefully. "I don't know exactly, but it sounds like they're setting something up, something to do with custody of Emma." "And what did he mean by, 'not when I'm finished'?" Kate asked. "Finished with what?" Linda stood up, pacing the small dining area. "I need to find out more about Vanessa. Who she is, how she met Michael, what their real relationship is." Kate nodded, already pulling out her laptop. "I can help with that. My cousin works for a private investigation firm, remember? He owes me a favor." Linda felt a surge of gratitude for her friend's practical approach. "Thanks, Kate. But we need to be careful. If Michael suspects I'm investigating him—" "He won't," Kate assured her. "We'll be discreet. In the meantime, what's your next move?" Linda thought for a moment. "I need to talk to Michael's mother. She might know something, even if she doesn't realize it." "Good idea," Kate agreed. "And I think you should consult a lawyer, Linda, just to understand your options." Linda nodded, though the thought of involving lawyers made everything feel suddenly more real, more permanent. "I'll call Patricia Lewis. She handled my parents' estate. She's discreet." As if on cue, Linda's phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Just checking in. How's Emma? Can we talk later?" Linda showed the message to Kate. "He's acting so normal, like yesterday never happened. That's concerning in itself," Kate observed. "Either he's in deep denial or this is all part of whatever plan he was talking about," Linda finished grimly. She replied to Michael with a simple, "Emma's fine, getting settled at Kate's. We'll call tomorrow." As she set her phone down, Linda felt a strange sense of calm settling over her. The initial shock and betrayal were giving way to a focused determination. Whatever Michael and Vanessa were planning, they had made a critical error in underestimating her. They thought she was nice and naive. They were about to discover how wrong they were. "Kate," Linda said, a new resolve in her voice, "I need you to do one more thing for me." "Anything," Kate replied without hesitation. "I need you to watch Emma tomorrow afternoon. There's somewhere I need to go." The following day, Linda parked her car across the street from a modern apartment building in Cambridge. According to the lease agreement she had found, Vanessa Reeves lived in apartment 307. Linda had dressed carefully in jeans, a hoodie and sunglasses, anonymous enough that she wouldn't stand out, but not so disguised as to appear suspicious. She had been watching the building for nearly an hour when a young woman with copper hair exited the front doors, pushing a stroller. Linda sat up straighter, recognizing Vanessa immediately. She waited until Vanessa had walked about half a block before getting out of her car and following at a discreet distance. Vanessa made her way to a small park a few streets over, where she found an empty bench and parked the stroller beside it. Linda positioned herself on another bench with a clear view, pretending to be absorbed in her phone, while actually taking photos of Vanessa, and, when she lifted the baby out, of Sophia. The child did indeed look around 6 months old, with a tuft of dark hair that reminded Linda painfully of Michael. The resemblance was undeniable. Whatever else might be going on, Sophia did appear to be Michael's daughter. After about 20 minutes, Vanessa's phone rang. Linda watched as she answered it, her body language immediately becoming more animated. Though Linda couldn't hear the conversation, she could tell from Vanessa's expression that it was intense. After a few minutes, Vanessa hurriedly packed up, putting Sophia back in the stroller and leaving the park with purpose in her stride. Linda followed, maintaining a safe distance. To her surprise, Vanessa headed toward a nearby medical building. Linda watched as she entered, then waited a few minutes before following. Inside, Linda scanned the directory in the lobby. The building housed various medical practices, a pediatrician's office, an OB/GYN clinic, a laboratory, and several specialists. Without knowing which one Vanessa was visiting, Linda couldn't risk following her further. Instead, she took a seat in the lobby, pretending to wait for an appointment while keeping an eye on the elevators. After about 40 minutes, Vanessa emerged with Sophia, now accompanied by a man in a white coat. They were deep in conversation as they walked toward the exit. Linda quickly pulled up the hood of her sweatshirt and bent over her phone as they passed. She managed to snap a discreet photo of the doctor before they left the building. Once they were gone, Linda approached the reception desk. "Excuse me," she said with a friendly smile. "I just saw Doctor." She glanced at her phone, zooming in on the ID badge visible in the photo she'd taken. "Mercer leaving. Is his office on this floor?" The receptionist nodded. "Dr. Mercer's practice is on the 3rd floor, but he's done with appointments for the day. Would you like to schedule one?" "Maybe," Linda replied casually. "What's his specialty again?" "He's a geneticist," the woman answered. "Specializes in rare genetic disorders and compatibility testing." Linda thanked her and left, her mind racing. A geneticist? Why would Vanessa be consulting a geneticist with Sophia? As she drove back to Kate's apartment, Linda called her friend's cousin, John, whom Kate had contacted the previous evening. "I've got a name for you to research," Linda said when he answered. "Dr. Alan Mercer. He's a geneticist in Cambridge. I need to know if he has any connection to either Michael Matthews or Vanessa Reeves." "I'll add it to the list," John replied. "I've already started looking into Ms. Reeves. Should have some preliminary information for you by tomorrow." "Thank you," Linda said sincerely. "And John, this stays completely confidential." "Of course," he assured her. Kate explained the situation. "I understand what's at stake." After hanging up, Linda sat in her parked car for several minutes, trying to make sense of what she had observed. A geneticist who specialized in rare disorders and compatibility testing. Sophia, who appeared to be Michael's biological child. Vanessa, who had been breastfeeding Emma. And Michael, who had spoken of being almost there and things being cleaner. None of it added up to a coherent picture yet, but Linda felt certain that whatever was happening went far beyond a simple affair. There was something methodical about it all, something calculated that made her increasingly uneasy. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Still planning to bring Emma by tomorrow afternoon?" Linda stared at the message, considering her options. She needed to maintain the appearance of cooperation while she gathered more information, and she needed to keep an eye on Michael's behavior to see if he revealed anything else. "Yes," she typed back. "We'll be there around 1 p.m. His response came quickly. "Great. Looking forward to seeing both of you." Linda put her phone away and started the car. As she drove back to Kate's, her resolve hardened. Tomorrow she would face Michael again, armed with new questions and a growing suspicion that what she had stumbled upon was far more sinister than she had initially thought. Whatever game Michael was playing, Linda was now playing one of her own, and she intended to win. Thursday afternoon arrived with a persistent drizzle that matched Linda's mood. She drove to the house with Emma, babbling happily in the back seat, unaware of the tension building in her mother with each passing mile. The past 24 hours had been productive. John had delivered his preliminary findings on Vanessa Reeves, 31 years old, older than Linda had guessed, a registered nurse who had worked at Boston Memorial Hospital in the oncology department until 6 months ago, coinciding with Sophia's birth. No criminal record, good credit, originally from Seattle. Her parents were both deceased and she had no siblings or other close family in the area. Most interestingly, John had discovered that Vanessa had been a patient of Dr. Alan Mercer 3 years ago, around the same time Michael claimed their affair had begun. The connection was too specific to be coincidental. As for Dr. Mercer, he was indeed a respected geneticist specializing in rare genetic disorders, particularly those affecting infants and young children. He also conducted research on genetic compatibility for organ and tissue donation. This last detail had sent a chill through Linda when John reported it. Now, as she pulled into the driveway of what had once been her happy home, Linda mentally rehearsed her approach. She needed to remain calm, to observe rather than confront directly. The pieces were starting to form a picture, but she still needed more information before she could be certain. Michael opened the front door before she had even gotten Emma out of her car seat. He looked tired, but had made an effort with his appearance, wearing a blue button-down shirt that Linda had bought him last Christmas. "There are my girls," he said with forced cheerfulness, coming down the steps to help with the diaper bag. Linda allowed him to take it, passing Emma to him as well. The baby went to her father willingly, patting his face with her small hands. "Hey, sweet pea," Michael cooed, kissing Emma's cheek. He looked at Linda. "Thanks for coming. I was worried you might change your mind." "I said I would bring her," Linda replied evenly. Michael led the way inside, the familiar scent of their home, a mixture of coffee, the lavender candles Linda favored, and the subtle baby products they used, hitting her with unexpected force. It felt surreal to be a visitor in what was still legally her home. "Can I get you anything? Coffee, tea?" Michael asked, setting Emma down on her playmat in the living room. "No, thank you," Linda replied, taking a seat on the couch where she could watch both Michael and Emma. "How have you been?" Michael sat in the armchair across from her, running a hand through his hair. "Honestly? Terrible. I've barely slept. Linda, I can't tell you how sorry I am about all of this." Linda studied him, searching for signs of the calculating man she had heard on the baby monitor recording. "Sorry about what specifically, Michael? The affair? The secret child? Having another woman breastfeed our daughter? Or getting caught?" He winced. "All of it. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Things don't just happen," Linda said calmly. "You made choices, repeatedly, for years." Michael leaned forward, his expression earnest. "I know. And I take full responsibility for those choices. But Linda, you have to believe me when I say I never stopped loving you. This thing with Vanessa, it was complicated. Then uncomplicate it for me," Linda challenged. "Tell me how it started. The truth this time." Michael hesitated, watching Emma as she grabbed for a colorful toy. "We met at the hospital. My mother was there for her hip replacement, remember? Vanessa was working as a nurse on that floor." Linda nodded. That had been almost 4 years ago, which aligned with his previous claim about when the affair began. "She was, kind," Michael continued. "We got talking during those long hours in the hospital. It wasn't anything at first, just friendly conversation. But then we ran into each other at a coffee shop near the hospital a few weeks later, and, he trailed off, having the decency to look ashamed. It was just supposed to be a one-time thing. We were both stressed. You and I were starting the fertility treatments. There was all this pressure. I'm not making excuses, but that's how it happened." "But it wasn't just once," Linda pointed out. "No," Michael admitted. "We kept seeing each other. I tried to end it several times, especially when you finally got pregnant with Emma. I was so happy, Linda. I thought that would be the end of it. But then Vanessa got pregnant too," Linda supplied. Michael nodded. "It was a shock to both of us. She wasn't even sure she wanted to keep the baby at first. But I couldn't ask her to terminate my child, so I promised to support them." Linda watched him carefully. The story sounded plausible, but something about his delivery felt rehearsed. "And you never thought to tell me, even after Emma was born?" "I was afraid," Michael said, his voice breaking slightly. "Afraid of losing you, losing Emma. I kept telling myself I'd find the right time, but there never seemed to be one." "So instead you created this elaborate deception," Linda said. Having Vanessa care for Emma when I thought she was with your mother, having her breastfeed our daughter. Michael's eyes darted away briefly. That wasn't planned. It just evolved. Vanessa had an oversupply issue. She mentioned it once when I was worried about Emma not getting enough when you went back to work. It seemed practical. Linda raised an eyebrow. Practical? To have your mistress breastfeed our child without my knowledge or consent? That crossed no ethical boundaries for you? It sounds terrible when you put it like that, Michael said defensively. But breast milk is breast milk. It was good for Emma. And what about Sophia? Linda asked, watching his reaction closely. Where was she during all this? Usually with Vanessa's neighbor, Michael replied. An older woman who babysits. Linda nodded, filing this information away. And Dr. Mercer, how does he fit into all this? The flash of surprise in Michael's eyes was unmistakable. How do you know about Alan? I have my sources, Linda said vaguely. What's his connection to you and Vanessa? Michael seemed to be calculating his response. He's Sophia's pediatrician. She has some health concerns. What kind of health concerns require a geneticist? Linda pressed. Michael's jaw tightened. She has a rare genetic condition. It's complicated. Try me, Linda challenged. I'm fairly intelligent despite being nice and naive. Michael froze. What? That's how you describe me to Vanessa, Linda said, watching him carefully. Nice and naive. The perfect combination, apparently. Color drained from Michael's face. You've been spying on us? I took the baby monitor when I left, Linda admitted. Imagine my surprise when I reviewed the footage from the day I caught you two. Michael stood up abruptly, pacing. You had no right to do that, and you had no right to betray me in every conceivable way, Linda countered, keeping her voice even. What did you mean when you told Vanessa you were almost there? Almost where, Michael? He stopped pacing, staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You're taking things out of context. Then provide the context, Linda challenged. What were you planning? Something to do with custody of Emma, from what I gathered. Michael glanced at Emma, then back at Linda. This conversation is over. I think you should leave. Linda didn't move. I'm not going anywhere without understanding what's really going on here. Because this isn't just about an affair, is it? There's something else, something to do with Dr. Mercer, with genetic testing, with Sophia's condition. You don't know what you're talking about, Michael said, his voice hardening. Then tell me, Linda insisted. Because I'm done being kept in the dark. I deserve the truth, Michael. All of it. For a moment, something dangerous flashed in Michael's eyes. Something Linda had never seen before. Then it was gone, replaced by a carefully constructed look of contrition. You're right, he said, sitting back down. You deserve the truth. But it's complicated and it involves Emma. Linda felt her heart rate accelerate. What about Emma? Michael took a deep breath. Sophia has a rare genetic disorder called Fanconi anemia. It's a blood disorder that affects the bone marrow's ability to produce blood cells. She needs a bone marrow transplant, and the best donor would be a sibling with matching HLA markers. Linda stared at him, the implications slowly dawning on her. Are you saying we had Emma tested? Michael admitted. Without your knowledge, she's a match for Sophia. The room seemed to tilt around Linda. You had our daughter tested as a potential donor for your other child, without telling me. It was just a simple cheek swab, Michael said defensively. No harm done, and it could save Sophia's life. So, that's what this has all been about? Linda asked, incredulous. Using our daughter as a donor? Is that why Vanessa was breastfeeding her? To what, create some kind of bond? To make it easier to take her for the procedure? It's not like that, Michael protested. The donation process for infants is minimal. Just a small amount of bone marrow or cord blood. Emma wouldn't even remember it. Linda stood up, anger coursing through her. That's not your decision to make alone. She is my daughter too. How dare you go behind my back for something like this? I knew you wouldn't understand, Michael said, his tone hardening. That's why I didn't tell you. Sophia could die without this transplant, Linda. What was I supposed to do? Be honest with me, Linda exclaimed. We could have discussed it like rational adults. Instead, you created this elaborate deception, involving another woman in our daughter's care without my knowledge or consent. Michael's expression shifted, the mask of contrition slipping to reveal something colder. And would you have agreed to let Emma be a donor for a child you didn't even know existed? Linda struggled to process the question. I don't know. Maybe. If it was safe for Emma, if it was presented ethically. But that's not the point. The point is you never gave me the chance to make that decision. Because it wasn't just your decision to make, Michael countered. Emma is my daughter too. And Sophia is your daughter, not mine, Linda pointed out. You created this situation, Michael, not me. Michael stood up, moving toward Emma, who had begun to fuss, sensing the tension. The procedure is scheduled for next week. Emma will be fine. It's minimally invasive. Sophia needs this, Linda. A chill ran through Linda. You've already scheduled it? Without my consent? That's illegal, Michael. I have parental rights, he said, picking up Emma. And I've consulted with a lawyer. Since we're married, I can authorize medical procedures for our child. Not for this, Linda said with certainty. Not for a procedure that provides no benefit to Emma and is solely for the benefit of another child. That requires consent from both parents. Michael's expression hardened. Are you really going to let a child die because you're angry at me? The manipulation was so blatant that Linda almost laughed. This isn't about anger, Michael. This is about you violating basic ethics and our daughter's bodily autonomy. This is about you lying and manipulating instead of being honest. I did what I had to do, Michael said simply. Linda shook her head, seeing her husband, truly seeing him, perhaps for the first time. No, you did what was easiest for you. There were other options. You could have been honest from the beginning. You could have approached me about testing Emma. You could have looked for other donors. There are no other suitable donors, Michael insisted. We've been searching for months. And Vanessa, Linda asked. What's her role in all this beyond being Sophia's mother? Why was she breastfeeding Emma? Michael hesitated. That was her idea. She thought it might help Emma's immune system, make the donation process safer for her. Linda didn't believe him for a second. And it had nothing to do with establishing some kind of maternal connection with Emma. Nothing to do with whatever custody arrangement you two were discussing. You're paranoid, Michael said dismissively. Am I? Linda challenged. Then why update your life insurance policy to create a trust for Sophia that only pays out if both you and I die? Why the secrecy? Why the elaborate lies? Michael's face paled slightly. You've been going through my things. I've been investigating, Linda corrected, because nothing about this situation made sense, and it still doesn't. There's something you're not telling me. For a moment, they stared at each other, the distance between them seeming insurmountable. Emma began to cry in earnest now, reaching for Linda. I think it's time for us to go, Linda said, taking Emma from Michael's arms. This visit is over. Linda, wait, Michael said, his tone urgent. We need to discuss this rationally. Sophia's procedure is scheduled for Tuesday. Emma needs to be there. Not happening, Linda said firmly, gathering Emma's things. Not without a court order, which you won't get in time. And once a judge hears about how you've handled this, you'll be lucky if you get supervised visitation with Emma, let alone permission for a medical procedure. Michael's expression darkened. Don't threaten me, Linda. You have no idea what's at stake here. Then tell me, Linda challenged, what exactly is at stake beyond Sophia's health, which I genuinely sympathize with? Michael seemed to struggle internally before responding. Nothing. I just meant that Sophia's life depends on this. Linda studied him, knowing he was still hiding something. I'm sorry about Sophia, truly, but there are other donors out there, Michael. The National Registry has millions of people. None that matches perfectly as Emma, Michael insisted. Linda shook her head, securing Emma in her arms. Find another way. Emma is not an option, not without my consent, which I am explicitly withholding until I have all the facts and have consulted with independent medical professionals. As she moved toward the door, Michael stepped in front of her, his body language suddenly threatening. You can't just take her. We need to resolve this. Move, Michael, Linda said calmly, though her heart was racing. I'm leaving with my daughter now. Our daughter, he corrected, not budging. Linda met his gaze steadily. If you don't let us leave, I will call the police. Is that what you want? For them to start asking questions about what's been going on here? Something in her tone must have convinced him, because after a tense moment he stepped aside. This isn't over, Linda. Sophia needs that transplant. Then I suggest you start looking for alternatives, Linda replied, walking past him and out the door. As she secured Emma in her car seat, Linda's hands were shaking so badly she struggled with the buckles. Michael watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. Once they were safely in the car, Linda locked the doors and drove away, checking the rearview mirror repeatedly to make sure Michael wasn't following. When she was certain they weren't being followed, she pulled over and called Kate. I need you to contact your cousin again, she said when Kate answered. I need everything he can find on Fanconi anemia and bone marrow transplants for infants. And I need the name of the best medical ethics lawyer in Boston. Tonight. What happened? Kate asked, alarmed. I'll explain when I get there, Linda promised. But Kate, I think this goes even deeper than we thought. And I'm not sure Emma is safe. As she hung up and pulled back onto the road, Linda glanced at Emma in the rearview mirror. Her daughter had fallen asleep, oblivious to the danger surrounding her. Linda gripped the steering wheel tighter, a fierce protective instinct surging through her. Whatever Michael and Vanessa were planning, whatever the full truth might be, one thing was certain: Linda would protect her daughter at all costs, even if it meant dismantling the life she had built piece by piece to uncover the truth. By nightfall, Linda had assembled a small team in Kate's living room. John, the private investigator, Patricia Lewis, her parents' former attorney who specialized in family law, and Dr. Sarah Chen, a pediatric specialist Kate knew from her work at the hospital, who had agreed to consult on the case as a favor. Let me get this straight, Patricia said, reviewing her notes. Your husband had an affair resulting in another child who has a rare genetic disorder requiring a bone marrow transplant. He had your daughter tested without your consent and found she's a match, and he scheduled the procedure for next Tuesday. Linda nodded, keeping her voice low as Emma slept in the next room. That's what he claims, but I'm not convinced that's the whole story. Dr. Chen looked troubled. Fanconi anemia is indeed a serious condition. Bone marrow transplants are the standard treatment for the severe bone marrow failure that can occur. But there are strict ethical guidelines for using minor siblings as donors, especially infants. Would the procedure be dangerous for Emma? Linda asked, the question that had been haunting her since her conversation with Michael. Not typically dangerous, no, Dr. Chen replied. For an infant donor, we usually collect bone marrow from the hip bone using a needle while the child is under general anesthesia. The risks are primarily associated with the anesthesia, which are minimal but real. The bone marrow itself regenerates quickly, but it would still be painful for her, Linda pressed. Dr. Chen nodded reluctantly. There would be some discomfort afterward, yes. Nothing severe or lasting, but not insignificant for an infant. And legally, Linda turned to Patricia. The attorney's expression was grim. Michael is right that as a legal parent, he can generally consent to medical procedures for Emma. However, for a non-therapeutic procedure, one that provides no direct benefit to Emma but benefits another person, the ethical and legal standards are much higher. Both parents' consent is typically required, especially when the child is too young to have any say. So he can't legally go through with this without my consent, Linda clarified. He would need a court order, Patricia confirmed, which would be difficult to obtain in these circumstances, particularly given the deceptive manner in which he's approached this entire situation. John, who had been quietly taking notes, spoke up. There's something else you should know. I did some digging into Dr. Mercer's research, and he's been involved in some controversial studies involving infant bone marrow and stem cells. Specifically, he's been working on treatments for genetic disorders that go beyond standard transplants. What kind of treatments? Linda asked, feeling increasingly uneasy. Experimental ones, John replied, using enhanced stem cells that have been genetically modified to better integrate with the recipient. The details are complex, but the point is, he's pushing boundaries in ways that have raised ethical questions in the medical community. Linda's mind raced. So there's a possibility that what they have planned for Emma goes beyond a standard bone marrow donation? It's speculation at this point, John cautioned, but given the connection between Dr. Mercer, Vanessa, and Michael, and the lengths they've gone to keep this hidden from you, it's a possibility we can't rule out. Dr. Chen looked deeply concerned. If they're planning to use experimental procedures on Emma without proper consent or oversight, that would be not just unethical, but potentially illegal. What should I do? Linda asked, looking around at the group. Patricia didn't hesitate. First, we file for an emergency custody order first thing tomorrow morning. Given what you've told me, we have grounds to request temporary sole legal custody of Emma, at least until this can be sorted out properly. Will that be enough to stop them? Linda asked. It should be, Patricia assured her. No reputable medical facility would proceed with a procedure like this if there's a custody dispute and explicit withholding of consent from one parent. Unless they're not planning to use a reputable facility, John pointed out. Dr. Mercer has connections to private research clinics that operate with less oversight. A chill ran through Linda. You think they would go that far? Take Emma somewhere outside the normal medical system? I think you need to be prepared for anything, John said gravely. The conversation you overheard, The secrecy, the manipulation, none of it suggests people who are playing by the rules. I agree, Patricia said, which is why I also recommend filing a police report documenting your concerns. We don't have enough for criminal charges yet, but creating a paper trail is important. Linda nodded, feeling overwhelmed but resolute. What about tomorrow? Michael expects to see Emma again on Sunday. Absolutely not, Patricia said firmly. No more unsupervised visits until we have the emergency custody order in place. If he wants to see Emma, it happens in a public place with you present at all times. Linda's phone buzzed with a text. She checked it, her blood running cold. It's from Michael. We need to talk about Tuesday. Vanessa and I will come by Kate's tomorrow morning to discuss arrangements. This doesn't have to be difficult. John frowned. He knows you're staying here. I told him, Linda admitted. I didn't realize how serious this was. Text him back, Patricia instructed. Tell him you're not available tomorrow and that any discussion about Emma needs to go through me from now on. Give him my number. Linda did as instructed, then looked up at the group. Do you think Emma and I are safe here? The momentary hesitation from everyone in the room was answer enough. I have a cabin in Vermont, Dr. Chen offered. It's remote, about 3 hours from here. No one knows about it except my immediate family. You and Emma could stay there until the legal protections are in place. Linda felt a surge of gratitude. Are you sure? Dr. Chen nodded. Absolutely. I can take you there tonight if you want. Linda looked at Patricia. Would that complicate the legal proceedings? Not if we know where you are, Patricia replied. I can file everything electronically. The important thing is keeping Emma safe until we have legal protections in place. Then that's what we'll do, Linda decided. I'll pack our things now. As the group dispersed to make arrangements, Linda went to check on Emma, who was sleeping peacefully in her portable crib. Looking down at her daughter's innocent face, Linda felt a fierce resolve hardening inside her. Michael had underestimated her. He had counted on her being nice and naive, on her collapsing under the weight of his betrayal. Instead, she had found a strength she hadn't known she possessed. Whatever Michael and Vanessa were planning, whatever the full truth might be, Linda would uncover it, and she would protect Emma, no matter what it took. The cabin nestled in the Vermont woods provided a stark contrast to the chaos Linda had left behind in Boston. Here, surrounded by tall pines and the gentle sounds of nature, she might have found peace under different circumstances. Instead, she remained vigilantly alert, checking her phone for updates and keeping Emma within arm's reach at all times. Dr. Chen had left them well supplied, promising to return in 2 days with any news. The cabin had no internet and poor cell reception, a safety feature in this situation, though it meant Linda had to stand on a specific corner of the back porch to make or receive calls. It was on that corner, early Sunday morning, that Linda received a call from Patricia. The emergency hearing is scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m., the attorney informed her. I've submitted all the documentation, including the baby monitor recording and statements from Dr. Chen about the ethical concerns regarding the procedure. And Michael? Linda asked, watching through the window as Emma played on a blanket in the living room. He's been served with the papers, Patricia replied, and he's not happy. He's hired Gerald Morrison. Linda recognized the name, one of Boston's most aggressive and expensive family law attorneys. That was fast. It suggests he was prepared for this possibility, Patricia noted, which is concerning in itself. What are our chances? Linda asked, cutting to the chase. Good, I think, Patricia assured her. The evidence of deception is strong, and the court generally errs on the side of caution when it comes to medical procedures for minors. At minimum, we should get a temporary order preventing any medical procedures without your consent, while the court considers the broader custody issues. Should I come back for the hearing? Linda asked. No, Patricia said firmly. Stay where you are. I can represent you, and the judge has agreed to allow you to appear by phone given the circumstances. After hanging up, Linda checked her phone and saw she had 3 missed calls from Michael. She had been ignoring his increasingly urgent texts since declining his proposed visit, referring him to Patricia as instructed. Now she listened to his voicemail with a growing sense of unease. Linda, this is ridiculous, Michael's voice said, tension evident in every syllable. Sophia doesn't have time for these legal games. Her condition is deteriorating. We need Emma for this procedure. I understand you're upset about the affair, but don't punish an innocent child for my mistakes. Call me back. The second message was shorter. Your lawyer won't tell me where you are. This is my daughter too, Linda. You can't just disappear with her. Call me. The third message, left just an hour ago, made Linda's blood run cold. I know you're at Chen's cabin. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? We're coming to talk sense into you. This has gone far enough. Linda rushed inside, her heart pounding. How had Michael found out about the cabin? Who had told him? She tried calling Patricia, but couldn't get through. Next she tried Kate. Kate, Linda said urgently when her friend answered. Michael knows where we are. He says he's coming here. What? How? Kate sounded genuinely shocked. No one would have told him. I don't know, Linda admitted, gathering Emma's things. But we need to leave now. Where will you go? Kate asked. I don't know yet, Linda replied, trying to stay calm as she packed Emma's diaper bag. Somewhere public first, then. I'll figure it out. Linda, wait, Kate said suddenly. John just texted me. He's discovered something important about Vanessa and Sophia. He's on his way to my apartment now. Can you stay on the line? Linda hesitated, glancing out the window at the long, winding driveway. There was no sign of approaching vehicles yet, but if Michael was already on his way... I'll stay on, but I'm still packing, Linda decided. What did John find? He's pulling up now, Kate said. I'll put you on speaker. There was a rustling sound. Then John's voice came through the phone. Linda, can you hear me? Yes, Linda confirmed, securing Emma in her carrier. What did you find? Sophia isn't Michael's daughter, John said without preamble. Linda froze. What? I got access to Dr. Mercer's research records through a contact at the hospital, John explained. Sophia is listed as a research subject, not a patient, and her genetic profile doesn't match Michael's. Are you certain? Linda asked, struggling to process this information. Positive, John confirmed. But here's where it gets really concerning. Sophia's condition isn't standard Fanconi anemia. She has a specific genetic mutation that Dr. Mercer has been studying, one that makes her an ideal recipient for his experimental treatment. But the treatment requires donor cells with particular genetic markers. Markers that Emma has. Linda sat down heavily, her mind racing. So, what are you saying? That they had Emma specifically to be a donor for Sophia? The silence on the other end of the line was answer enough. But that would mean... Linda couldn't finish the thought. That Michael and Vanessa planned this from the beginning, John completed for her. My theory is that they met through Dr. Mercer. Vanessa was likely already part of his research program with Sophia. They needed a donor with specific genetic markers, and Michael was selected because his genetic profile suggested he could father a child with those markers. With me, Linda whispered, the full horror of the situation dawning on her. They targeted me because of my genetic profile. It's possible, John admitted. Dr. Mercer had access to genetic databases through his research. If he was looking for specific combinations, the fertility treatments, Linda realized. Michael insisted on a specific clinic, a clinic where Dr. Mercer had consulting privileges, which would have given him access to your genetic information, John confirmed. Linda felt physically ill. So our entire marriage, Emma's birth, it was all part of some elaborate scheme to create a donor for this experimental treatment. The evidence points that way, John said gently. I'm so sorry, Linda. The sound of tires on gravel snapped Linda back to the present danger. Through the window, she saw a black SUV making its way up the driveway. They're here, she said urgently. I have to go. Linda, wait, Kate interjected. John contacted the police. They're on their way to the cabin now. I'll just stay inside, keep the doors locked. Help is coming. Linda moved quickly to lock the front door and all the windows. How long until they get here? 20 minutes, maybe less, John replied. The local sheriff was already in the area. Linda checked out the window again. The SUV had parked and Michael was getting out, along with Vanessa and a man Linda didn't recognize but who carried a medical bag. There are 3 of them, Linda reported, her voice steady despite her fear. Michael, Vanessa, and someone else, possibly Dr. Mercer. Linda, listen to me, John said urgently. We've sent all the evidence to Patricia and the police. They know about the experimental procedure, the falsified paternity, everything. Just keep them talking until help arrives. Don't let them take Emma. I won't, Linda promised, picking up Emma's carrier and moving to the back of the cabin, away from the windows. I have to go. They're coming to the door. She ended the call as a heavy knock sounded. Linda, I know you're in there, Michael's voice called. We just want to talk. Linda remained silent, holding Emma close. The knocking came again, more insistent. Linda, please, Michael called. Sophia is running out of time. We can explain everything. Still, Linda didn't respond. She heard muffled conversation outside, then the sound of something hard hitting the door. Once, twice. They were trying to break in. Linda moved quickly, taking Emma into the small bathroom at the back of the cabin, the only room with a door that locked from the inside, and no windows. She set Emma's carrier on the floor and pulled out her phone, texting Kate. "They're breaking in. In bathroom. How far away are police?" The response came quickly. 5-10 minutes. Hold on." The sound of breaking glass reached her ears, followed by the creak of the front door opening. Footsteps moved through the cabin. "Linda," Michael called. "This is unnecessary. We just want to talk." Linda held her breath, one hand on Emma to keep her quiet, the other clutching her phone. "Check the bedrooms," she heard Michael instruct someone. More footsteps. "She must have taken the baby and run," Vanessa's voice said after a few minutes. "The car's still here, but they could have gone into the woods." "She wouldn't leave without the car," Michael responded. "Not with the baby. She's here somewhere. Check the bathroom." Linda's heart pounded as footsteps approached. The doorknob rattled. "Linda, I know you're in there," Michael called. "Open the door. We're not leaving without Emma." "The police are on their way, Michael," Linda called back, deciding to reveal her presence now that they'd found her. "They know everything. About the experimental procedure. About how Sophia isn't really your daughter. About how you targeted me for my genetic profile. It's over." There was a stunned silence, then urgent whispers she couldn't make out. "You don't understand," Michael finally responded, his voice tense. "Sophia is dying. This treatment is her only hope. We did what we had to do. By manipulating me? By creating a child for the sole purpose of harvesting her cells?" Linda's voice shook with anger. "That's not justifiable, Michael. It's monstrous." "It's for a greater good," Michael insisted. "Dr. Mercer's treatment could save countless children in the future. Emma would be helping to make history." "At what risk?" Linda demanded. "What aren't you telling me about this experimental procedure?" Another pause. More whispers. "The procedure is minimally invasive," Michael said. But Linda detected the lie in his voice. "Emma would be fine." "Then why all the secrecy? Why not be honest from the beginning?" Linda challenged. "Why create this elaborate deception unless you knew what you were doing was wrong?" Outside, the distant sound of sirens became audible. Relief flooded through Linda. "We need to go," she heard Vanessa say urgently. "Alan, we can't be found here." "Not without the child," the third voice, presumably Dr. Mercer, replied firmly. "The window is closing. Without those cells, all our work, all these years of research, it's worthless." "Break the door down," Michael ordered. Linda backed away from the door, clutching Emma tightly as something heavy slammed against it. Once, twice, the frame splintered but held. "Police! Hands where we can see them!" a new voice shouted from the front of the cabin. The pounding on the bathroom door immediately stopped. Linda heard running footsteps, shouting, the sound of a scuffle. "Linda Matthews, this is Sheriff Davis," a voice called. "Are you and the baby okay?" "We're here, in the bathroom," Linda called back, her voice breaking with relief. "Stay put until we secure the scene," the sheriff instructed. Linda sank down onto the floor, cradling Emma, who had remarkably slept through much of the commotion and was only now stirring. "It's okay, baby," she whispered, pressing a kiss to her daughter's forehead. "We're safe now." The next few hours passed in a blur. Linda and Emma were escorted to the sheriff's station, where Patricia was waiting for them. Michael, Vanessa, and Dr. Mercer had all been arrested. Michael and Vanessa for attempted kidnapping, Dr. Mercer for practicing medicine without proper licensing in Vermont, and various ethical violations that would likely lead to more charges once the investigation was complete. "The judge has already signed the emergency custody order," Patricia informed Linda, as they sat in a private room at the station. "You have sole legal and physical custody of Emma pending a full hearing, which won't be for several weeks." Linda nodded, exhaustion finally catching up with her now that the immediate danger had passed. "What happens now?" "Now, you go somewhere safe while the investigation continues," Patricia advised. "The FBI has become involved due to the interstate nature of the crimes and the ethical violations in Dr. Mercer's research. They'll want to interview you, but that can wait until tomorrow." "And Michael?" Linda asked, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. "He's not getting out anytime soon," Patricia assured her. "The evidence against him is substantial, and the judge denied bail given the flight risk and the seriousness of the allegations." Linda looked down at Emma peacefully sleeping in her carrier. "How could he do this? How could he use us this way?" Patricia's expression softened. "I don't know, Linda. Some people convince themselves that the end justifies any means." From what we're learning, Dr. Mercer had been searching for years for the right genetic match for his experimental treatment. He believed his work could revolutionize treatment for certain genetic disorders. Michael and Vanessa were likely drawn in by that promise, the idea of being part of something groundbreaking. At the expense of an innocent child, Linda finished, brushing a gentle finger over Emma's cheek. At the expense of our lives. Yes, Patricia agreed solemnly. And they'll face the consequences for those choices. A gentle knock at the door preceded Kate's entrance. She rushed to Linda, embracing her tightly. Thank God you're both okay. Linda returned the embrace, drawing strength from her friend's presence. We are, thanks to you and John. Kate pulled back, wiping tears from her eyes. John's talking to the FBI now. The evidence he gathered. Linda, it's worse than we thought. Worse. Linda felt a fresh wave of dread. How? Kate glanced at Patricia, who nodded encouragingly. Dr. Mercer's experimental treatment wasn't just a bone marrow transplant. It would have required multiple harvests over time, increasingly invasive. The procedure scheduled for Tuesday was just the first step. Linda felt physically ill. They were planning to use Emma as a living donor bank? Essentially, yes, Kate confirmed grimly. Doctor Mercer believed his technique could cure Sophia completely, but it required ongoing cellular donations from a genetically optimal donor, Emma. And the risks to Emma? Linda forced herself to ask. Kate hesitated. Significant. Much more than they told you. Each successive procedure would have been more invasive, with increasing recovery time and potential complications. Linda closed her eyes, trying to process the magnitude of the betrayal. When she opened them again, her resolve had hardened. I want to see Michael. Linda, I don't think that's a good idea, Patricia cautioned. I need to, Linda insisted. I need to look him in the eye and understand how he could do this, if any of it was ever real. Patricia and Kate exchanged concerned glances. If we arrange it, it would be supervised, Patricia said finally. And brief, but not tonight. You need rest, and the FBI will want to complete their initial interviews first. Linda nodded, knowing they were right. Tomorrow then. The County Detention Center was a stark institutional building that seemed designed to strip away dignity and comfort. Linda sat in the sterile visitation room, Emma safely with Kate outside, waiting for Michael to be brought in. She had dressed carefully in clothes that reminded her of the woman she had been before, professional, put together, in control. It was armor of sorts, a visual reminder to herself that she was no longer the naive woman Michael had manipulated. When the door opened and Michael entered, escorted by a guard, Linda was struck by how different he looked. Just days ago, he had been her husband, the father of her child, the man she had built a life with. Now he was a stranger, haggard and diminished in his orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed in front of him. You have 15 minutes, the guard informed them, taking up position by the door. Michael sat down across from Linda, separated by a narrow table. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read, part defiance, part resignation. Thank you for coming, he said, his voice hoarse. How's Emma? Don't, Linda said sharply. Don't pretend you care about her welfare now. Michael flinched. I do care about her. She's my daughter. Is she? Linda challenged. Or is she just a collection of desirable genetic material to you? A means to an end? Michael looked down at his cuffed hands. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Tell me how it was supposed to be then, Linda demanded. Tell me the truth, Michael, all of it. You owe me that much. He was silent for a long moment, then raised his eyes to meet hers. I met Dr. Mercer first, 5 years ago, at a medical conference. I was there for work. My company was supplying equipment for his lab. He was charismatic, brilliant. He talked about his research, how he was on the verge of a breakthrough that could cure certain genetic disorders. But he needed very specific genetic matches for his treatments to work. And that's where I came in, Linda said flatly. Michael nodded. He had been searching for years for someone with the right genetic profile to produce the type of donor cells he needed. When he ran my profile, he discovered I could potentially father a child with the right markers, if the mother had complementary genetics. So you were tasked with finding me, Linda concluded. Not exactly, Michael admitted. Dr. Mercer had already identified several potential candidates, women with the right genetic profile who might be receptive. The implications made Linda's skin crawl. Receptive? You mean vulnerable, eager for marriage, for a family? Michael had the decency to look ashamed. Yes. And Vanessa? Where does she fit in? She was already working with Dr. Mercer, Michael explained. Her daughter Sophia has the genetic disorder his treatment targets. She was desperate for a cure, willing to do anything. When traditional donors failed to work, Dr. Mercer proposed his experimental approach. So you and Vanessa weren't really having an affair, Linda realized. That was just a cover story. At first, yes, Michael admitted. We needed a plausible explanation for Sophia's existence and for why Vanessa would be in our lives. The affair seemed simpler than the truth. Simpler than admitting you married me to harvest my genetic material? Linda's voice was ice. Yes, I imagine it would be. Michael winced. Linda, it wasn't all a lie. I did grow to care for you. When Emma was born, Stop, Linda interrupted. Don't try to rewrite history now. If you cared for me at all, you wouldn't have betrayed me so completely. You wouldn't have planned to use our daughter the way you did. He fell silent, unable to meet her gaze. Was anything real? Linda asked after a moment, hating the vulnerability in her voice but needing to know. Any of it? Michael hesitated. The way I felt when Emma was born, that was real. The pride I felt when you made partner at your firm, that was real too. I didn't expect to actually have feelings for you. It complicated things. Complicated your plan to use our daughter as a perpetual donor, you mean? Linda said bitterly. You have to understand. Sophia is dying, Michael said, a hint of desperation entering his voice. Dr. Mercer's treatment is revolutionary. It could save not just her, but eventually thousands of children with similar conditions. Emma would have been part of something historic, something meaningful. Without her consent, without my consent, Linda pointed out. You didn't even give me the chance to consider it ethically, Michael. You just took the choice away from both of us. Because I knew what you'd say, Michael replied. I knew you wouldn't understand the greater good we were working toward. The greater good, Linda repeated incredulously. Is that how you justified lying to me from the moment we met? How you justified planning to subject our daughter to increasingly dangerous procedures without my knowledge? Michael's expression hardened. Sometimes progress requires sacrifice. Not my daughter's sacrifice, Linda said firmly. Not without her consent, which she's too young to give. Not without my informed consent as her mother. They sat in tense silence for a moment, the gulf between their worldviews seemingly insurmountable. What will happen to Sophia? Linda asked finally, unable to completely harden her heart toward the innocent child caught in this nightmare. Michael looked surprised by the question. Without the treatment, the prognosis isn't good. Conventional therapies might buy her some time, but Linda nodded, processing this. I'm sorry for her, truly. No child deserves to suffer for the sins of their parents. Then help her, Michael pleaded, leaning forward. You could still agree to a one-time donation from Emma, a standard procedure, nothing experimental. It could give Sophia a chance. Linda stared at him, amazed by his audacity. Even now, you're still trying to manipulate me. No, Michael, I will not subject Emma to any medical procedures for Sophia's benefit. There are other donors out there. Ethical approaches you could have taken from the beginning. None as perfect a match as Emma, Michael insisted. Then you'll have to accept less than perfect, Linda said firmly, because I will never, never allow you or Dr. Mercer anywhere near my daughter again. The finality in her tone seemed to deflate Michael. He slumped in his chair, the calculating mask finally dropping to reveal a man facing the consequences of his choices. I am going to press charges, Linda informed him. For fraud, for conspiracy, for attempted kidnapping, for medical battery when you tested Emma without my consent. I'm going to make sure you, Vanessa, and Dr. Mercer face the full legal consequences of what you've done. Michael nodded, resigned. I expected nothing less. Linda stood, signaling to the guard that she was finished. Goodbye, Michael. As she turned to leave, Michael called after her. Linda, wait. There's one more thing you should know. She paused, looking back at him. The fertility treatments, he said quietly. They weren't necessary. You were never infertile. We just needed to control the process, to ensure the embryo would have the right genetic markers. The revelation hit Linda like a physical blow, one final betrayal layered upon all the others. She had endured months of painful injections, emotional roller coasters, and self-doubt, all for a lie. Without another word, she walked out, leaving behind the man who had systematically dismantled her life in service of his twisted vision of the greater good. 6 months later, Linda sat on a blanket in the park, watching Emma toddle unsteadily across the grass. At almost a year old, her daughter was thriving, walking, babbling, exploring the world with fearless curiosity. She's getting so big, Kate remarked, sitting beside Linda and handing her a coffee. And fast. I turned around for 2 seconds at my place yesterday, and she was halfway up the stairs. Linda laughed, keeping a watchful eye on Emma. I know. Baby-proofing is a full-time job these days. The past months had brought significant changes. Michael, Vanessa, and Dr. Mercer were all awaiting trial, having been denied bail due to the severity of the charges and flight risk. The FBI investigation had uncovered evidence of similar schemes involving other families, suggesting a pattern of unethical research practices spanning years. The scandal had rocked the medical community, prompting calls for stricter oversight of experimental treatments and genetic research. Linda had sold the house in Boston, unable to remain in the space filled with memories of her false marriage. She and Emma had moved to a bright apartment in Cambridge, close enough to Kate for regular visits, but far enough from their old life to feel like a fresh start. Linda had taken a leave of absence from her law firm, using the time to heal and focus on Emma. Have you heard anything about Sophia? Kate asked carefully, knowing it was a sensitive subject. Linda nodded. Patricia told me she's been placed with her maternal grandmother in Seattle. They're pursuing conventional treatment options. It's not a cure, but it might give her more time while research on ethical alternatives continues. And how do you feel about that? Kate probed gently. Linda watched Emma examining a dandelion with intense concentration. I'm glad she has family caring for her. I don't blame Sophia for any of this. She's as much a victim as Emma in many ways. But I stand by my decision. Emma deserves to grow up free from being viewed as a medical resource. Kate squeezed her friend's hand. You did the right thing, Linda. Through all of this, you protected Emma. Linda smiled, feeling a peace she hadn't experienced in months. Sometimes I still can't believe it happened. That my entire marriage was essentially a research protocol. That Michael never really... Don't, Kate interrupted firmly. Don't question if he ever really loved you. That's giving him too much power still. The only thing that matters is that you loved authentically. You built a life with integrity, and you created something beautiful. She nodded toward Emma. Focus on that. Linda nodded, knowing her friend was right. The divorce will be final next month, and the prosecutor thinks the criminal cases are solid. They won't hurt anyone else. And you, Kate asked, are you ready to start thinking about what's next? Linda considered the question. The past months had been about survival, about putting one foot in front of the other, about creating safety and stability for Emma. But lately, she'd found herself thinking about the future again, not just reacting to the past. I'm thinking about starting my own practice, Linda admitted, focusing on medical ethics and patient advocacy, using my experience to help others navigate complex medical decisions to ensure informed consent is truly informed. That sounds perfect, Kate said approvingly. You'd be amazing at that. Emma toddled back to them, offering Linda a slightly crushed dandelion with a proud grin. Mama! Flower! Linda accepted the gift with exaggerated delight. Thank you, baby, it's beautiful. She pulled Emma onto her lap, inhaling the sweet scent of her daughter's hair. You're beautiful. As Emma squirmed away to continue her explorations, Linda felt a profound gratitude wash over her. The path that had brought her here was unimaginably painful, built on lies and betrayal beyond what most people would ever experience. But it had also given her Emma, a daughter she would have moved heaven and earth to protect, and ultimately had. You know, Linda said, watching Emma chase a butterfly across the grass, I used to think strength meant never breaking. Now I think it's about how you put yourself back together. Kate smiled. And how you've put yourself back together is pretty remarkable. Linda returned the smile, feeling the warm spring sun on her face and the solid ground beneath her. The future stretched before them, uncertain but full of possibility. Whatever came next, she would face it with the same determination that had carried her through the darkness, one step at a time, with Emma's hand in hers. In finding the courage to confront the unimaginable, Linda had discovered a resilience she never knew she possessed. She had walked through fire and emerged not just intact, but transformed, stronger, wiser, and more certain of her own worth than ever before. As Emma ran back to her, arms outstretched and face alight with joy, Linda knew with absolute certainty that they would be okay. More than okay. They would thrive, and that was a truth no one could ever take from them.